I have spoken about the things that will happen after COVID-19 in the last video. But as I prepared, I was thinking to myself, let me speak about the new heaven and earth. So when I calculated, it was about 5 times more, and based on prophecy, the things that will come in the future, and the realistic things about the Bible, and the things that will happen in the last days, right before the second coming of Jesus. I will talk about it and describe it until the new heaven and earth. This is the verse that we saw last week, 1 Chronicles 12:32. Of Issachar, men who had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do, 200 chiefs and all their kinsmen under their command. I, as a pastor, have a responsibility to guide and teach, to live in the right way. I am very serious about this message because I need to teach it right. Thankfully, we have prophecy in us. So, based on the prophecy which is certain and clear, I will talk about how the world will be in the future and predict how the things will be so that we can learn how to behave and how to live and how to keep our faith. I have no intention to make you nervous with this prophecy, but I want you to know the truth correctly and live your daily life so that you can live a healthy, faithful life. So understand it well and digest it well as you listen to the Word of God. In Luke 21:26, it says, people fainting with fear and with foreboding of what is coming on the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. If you know the prophecy, you don't have to be fearful. So I'm telling you not to faint already. Those things are predicted, will happen, and it's a river that we have to cross over. So that even it's a little difficult, just accept it as if it were to happen. It'll be nothing. In a book of inspiration, it says, God has not restrained the powers of darkness from carrying forward their deadly work of vitiating the air, one of the sources of life and nutrition, with a deadly miasma. Because the time has come, God is not restraining whatever the evil force is, putting these poisonous things in the air. God does not restrain it. Because the time has come. And so the people of God has to be prepared. That's the purpose. And the people who does not know God has to understand that the time is near. Not only is vegetable life affected, but man suffers from pestilence. We are actually suffering from this poisonous air because of all this virus. These things are the result of drops from the vials of God's wrath being sprinkled on the earth, and are but faint representations of what will be in the near future. So when the 7 bowls of the wrath of God in Revelation 16, the prophecy, if it comes then, these are nothing. As this one virus covers the whole world right now, the whole nation do not know what to do. Even America, which has such a strong power, it cannot do anything as the pandemic started. The United States has the most confirmed cases. They have more than China. However, as I told you before, these things are nothing compared to the wrath of God in Revelation 16. But one of the certain thing is that even if this pandemic fades away and the life becomes normal, people's attitude and the situation of the world wouldn't return as before. Now, a lot of political people and scholars say that this situation is a biggest crisis after the World War II. It's that serious. However, we know the prophecy, and so that we see it and know it, so we don't have to fear about it, and keep your individual faith and prepare for the coming. Today's topic is the second series of the how the world will change after the COVID-19, the unity of the world and the restraint of the freedom of religion. Since long time ago, the world had a lot of effort to unite together and govern together very actively and very specifically. Even now, it's going on. One of the biggest obstacles that the world becoming one is religion. Furthermore, it's church. So that keeping faith within church has to be eliminated, otherwise it won't work. And so we have that picture in front of us. If you haven't already watched the first video, let me tell you the title only. So we talked about what things will happen after COVID-19. The theme was economic crisis and the appearance of strong dictator. If you want to watch the previous videos, these videos are uploaded on YouTube channel. If you want to watch the previous videos, go up to this channel and watch them. I have explained three things to you guys. There will be social distancing, there will be economic crisis, and there will be a strong dictator coming up this period. So the power of papacy will come arise very soon, and they will appear to control over the whole world. And these are all prophesied in the Bible. And the political reviews are saying the same things about this papacy as well. In the book called The Strongest Nation, Vatican City, as you can see in this small letter, the world wars and the destruction of Iron Curtain, the Cuban Revolution, United Nations, the terror war of United States, all these things, in every critical moment of the world history, there was Vatican. In every critical moment of the world history, there was Vatican. And so that is telling us that Vatican is controlling the flow of the world. The back cover says this: "It is still a mystery of history and a most remarkable achievement of the papal system that has been able to become a huge power with global respect and great influence throughout the turbulent world history." How can this one man, the Vatican, such a small country, can have such a great power? It's a mystery. But it's a prophecy, it's not a mystery. In Revelation 13, this complicated beast comes out. About this complicated beast, Revelation 13, 2 and 4, it tells, the dragon, you know the dragon? And to the dragon gave his power and his throne and great authority. That he is the beast, and this beast represents the papacy. It's not a mystery, but a fulfillment of prophecy. And they worship the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast. And they worship the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast, and who can fight against it?" There is no other power in this world to stand against it. It's saying, who can fight against it? There are some Bible verses that I want to share which tells us that what the Pope will do in the last days. 2 Thessalonians 2:4. You guys heard it several times already. Who opposes and exalts himself against every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, proclaiming himself to be God. It's saying that it will act like God in the last days. Next, and all who dwell on earth will worship it, everyone whose name has not been written before the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who was slain. Everyone who has not been saved will surrender in front of the authority of the Pope. Not just surrender, but worship him. Revelation 13:15, and he was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak and might cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. It's about the persecution and tribulation. It might kill you if you don't listen to them. Revelation 13:16, 17. Also it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell. You cannot live without buying and selling. It is threatening your daily life as well. This power and this authority. However, unfortunately, we are living in the times when this kind of power can appear. The world is suffering from economic crisis, disconnected relationships, natural disasters, political disorder, press control, nature becoming destroyed. Individuals have to sacrifice. The society is in chaos. There's a limitation to the freedom of religion. And the New World Order is forming rapidly. Integration of different areas, because in order to form one body, many areas have to come together. So these things are happening in this world. So the only individual that comes up in this chaotic situation of the whole world and who gives solutions to this difficult situation is the Pope himself. Politically, religiously, he is the only one who fits into this category. This is the reality, and it's where we live in. So we talked about integration of different fields. We finished the part 3 last time, so we'll talk about how the politics and religion integration are in progress. Let's look at the Bible verse again. In chapter 13, verse 3, one of its heads seems to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast. This beast is the first beast in Revelation 13, and it represents the papacy. It's saying that the whole world will follow the authority of the papacy, centered with one individual. There will be an integration. Let's look at the picture that we showed last time. Politically and religiously, the one who's tying up the whole world into one government is the power of the papacy. Look at the picture here. The political leaders, the religious leaders, they all have established relationship with Pope to become one, and this is the reality. In the book, The Final Sign, it says, within the context, they're talking about the Jesuits. They are the main functional organization who controls everything and whatever is going on in the Catholic Church. They are the strongest organization in the world. They are now continuing to take control of Protestant churches and bind the world's religions into the Catholic Church, using a powerful global network of organizations, precise information, and elaborate strategies, and tremendous financial power. Why do they combine primarily the churches and the religion? Because there are so many believers. As I talked about it last time, the statistics of 2019, the world's population was 7.72 billion, and the religious population was 6.63 billion. So if they combine all religions of the whole world, it's going to be easy for them to control the whole world. The one who's actively integrating all religions of the whole world is the power of Pope. The Pope is the central figure among the leaders of the world. So what does integration of the whole world really means? It is the integration of the economy. It is uniting the economy. It is also uniting the education, cultures, military force, politics, information, religion. These 7 areas, they're uniting all these areas to make a global nation. It's not going to be easy, but soon it'll make sense to us because they're working on it. So the one who is carrying forward the new world order are not the ones who are in the politics right now or other political powers, but there is a hidden superpower who pulled the strings behind the scenes for a long time. These are the main characters. Rich people or skilled men would gather to pull the strings behind. Presidents and Congress, they have their own term. However, these people, they don't have terms, so they can carry on and on. That's why presidents cannot do their own way. Some say that the presidents have to follow the orders from them. One of the presidents of the United States said this when people demanded so much, "I cannot do it in my way." They might even have to risk their lives. We know the story about Kennedy and Lincoln. They were killed because they didn't follow their orders. This is the world we're living in. So I come up with a list of organizations which work to create New World Order. They are pretty complicated, but you can see in this pyramid picture, there are politics, economy, religion, culture, education, information, and they are uniting all this. The biggest functional body to unite all these things are called Freemason. And the subunits are the World Bank, International Labor Union, and Unity Church. And then the Central Bank, the International Police, New Age, NCC, NATO. And then the CIA and FBI, which controls the information. Mossad is the Russian intelligence department, the most sophisticated intelligence organization in the world. WCC, the World Federation of Religion, and UNESCO. And then UN, G20, G7, and EU countries. Next, there is a club called the Bilderberg Club, which is a club of influential people from around the world with great power. They're the ones who control it. And then the group up is the Illuminati. The power that controls all of this is Jesuit. The Jesuit is at the peak. Another name for the head of the Jesuit is called Black Pope. He's the Pope over the Pope. That's how powerful the head of Jesuit is. Please look at the picture I showed it last time. A picture of fish biting back to back. The first is the earth, then the Catholic Church, and the Jesuit. The earth is bitten by Catholicism, and the Catholic Church by Jesuit. The Jesuit rules the whole world. Now, the plan of those who want to unite the whole world and control over, it seems like they have been successful for a little bit. Yet they will fail ultimately. The great course of history in this world is through the history of God's salvation of men. It's not up to humans. Here's what Psalm 2 says from the first verse. Why do the nations rage and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth set themselves And the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, "Let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us." So basically they're saying, let's do whatever we want to do. He who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord holds them in derision. Guys, you cannot do anything. God laughs at them as he sees their plan. They want to lead the whole world with great plans, but God laughs at them. Then he speaks to them in his wrath and terrify them in his fury, saying, "As for me, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill." Jesus appears. What happens when men are trying to do a lot of things, struggling and trying to do things? Jesus appears. Psalm 33:10 says, "The Lord brings the counsel of the nations to nothing. He frustrates the plans of the people." What does he do with the plans of the people? He destroys it. Isaiah 7:7 says, "Thus says the Lord God, it shall not stand and it shall not come to pass." Man's plan doesn't work as they planned. The destiny of the human history is all accomplished in this one picture. If you see carefully, we started with the Babylon. The head is the Babylon. The chest and arms are Persia. Then the bronze country is the Greece. They appeared and disappeared, appeared and again disappeared. Then Rome came up. Rome was destroyed as it was divided by itself. Both countries, like iron and mud, live together, however they cannot unite to one. In Daniel 2:43, it says it clearly, "As you saw the iron mixed with soft clay, so they will mix with one another in marriage, but they will not hold together just as iron does not mix with clay." It's all done. Human nations cannot be one. They can only pretend to be one. Before the kingdom of God arrives, Satan has strategic plans to control and conquer whole nation so that he can control the world. He wants to control the people before Jesus comes. And in the days of those kings of the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed, nor shall the kingdom be left to another people. It shall break in pieces all these kingdoms and bring them to an end, and it shall stand forever.
결국 인간 나라는 사람들끼리 모여서 하나로 통일시켜서 좋은 세대가 오는 게 아니고 예수께서 재림하심으로 끝나는 것입니다.
So, in the Bible, there are two types of prophecies, general prophecy and implied prophecy. General prophecy has conditions, but implied prophecy will happen because it has a fixed structure, therefore it has to happen. Humans cannot change it, so it'll never unite. It'll seem like they're uniting, but it will break down. Now, fifth, they will control the economy and individuals' privacy for a while. This is the verse that I showed you last time. Also, it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. And so one of the big things after COVID-19 is the economic situation. Economy. It's already happening in front of our eyes right now. The working class income has been decreased so much, and lots of companies have been bankrupt. Both small companies and big companies, their production has been decreased, and trade has been decreased too. The market is in bad shape. Because they're in trouble, they distribute so much money in order to solve this problem. Where does the money come from? Not only the states, but the whole world, even our country, is distributing so much money, millions and billions of dollars, so people can survive. But where does the money come from? They're printing the money. They're creating money. So if you print the money, so much money, with common sense we know that inflation will increase so much. Price of the products will go so high. Not enough products with so much money, they sell with high price. So the reality of this paper money, you have to know that the value of this paper money changes with situation. The paper money started with gold standard system. For example, if you want to produce $10,000, you have to own 10,000 value of gold. Then you can print out $10,000 value of paper money. So they had to give out some portion of the gold. And this gold standard system was the main system of money. But now, depending on the necessity of the individual or by the country, they started to print out money despite of having gold. As they started to print out money infinitely, there's not enough gold compared to paper money. Money lost its value. So if this cycle continues and the politics doesn't work well, the value of the money and inflation occurs. And the extreme continuation of this process is called a hyperinflation. And when this happens, the economy will die itself. Do you know where the person is going with that bunch of money? He's not a bank employee. He's going to market to buy something. To buy a small food in the market, he has to bring that much money. Can you imagine? How can this happen? So because these things happen, as the amount of money increases, they increase the number on a single paper money. They make $10,000 bill. Some time ago, I went to Zimbabwe. I had a meeting there in Africa. I went there to learn about evangelism because one of the pastors was so good at evangelism. Back then, it was still notorious because when I was trying to buy a piece of pizza, I had to pay thousands of dollars. Do you know how much it was? To buy 3 eggs, you have to pay $100 billion. Just 3 eggs cost $100 billion. They have to have a $100 billion bill, otherwise they have to bring the whole money. Look at him, he's bringing so much money. In the beginning, they probably made $500 bill, probably in the beginning of the inflation. But it doesn't work because it increases. So they create $100,000 bills. It didn't work. $200,000 bill. A single paper money cost $200,000. Then there is $100 trillion bill. With Korean won, it's only 600 won. So this can happen anywhere if the inflation goes up. It really happened in our country. So the value of a dollar bill in 1913, it had a value of $1. But because they printed out the money so much, the value decreased, and 2008, it almost reached zero. To make fun of it, someone created this kind of money. It was when President Bush was in the office. You cannot spend me on anything. Basically, there's no value in it. I don't have a value. That's what the money is saying. What about euro? It's 0 euro. Obviously, it's a sarcasm. Look at this article.
Paper money, 종이돈, eventually returns to its intrinsic value.
Paper money eventually will return to its original value. As we know, paper doesn't cost that much, right? In reality, the intrinsic value is basically zero. And this situation is very realistic. It may come very soon. We do not know how severe it'll be, but this has potential to come. So when this problem comes, who will solve this problem? And we know that the Pope will do this. There are Jesuits who are controlling the heads of the financial industries of the whole world. And these are happening behind the scenes. They control the financial world. I've read several books about this, and most of them have similar opinions. There are two books which wrote about the wealth of the Vaticans, how strong they are financially. Vatican Billions. It talks about how much wealth they have and how strong they are. It's the original script. The Catholic Church is the biggest financial power, wealth accumulator, and property owner in existence. She is a greater possessor of material riches than any other single institution, corporation, bank, giant trust, government, or state of the whole globe. The Pope, as the visible ruler of this immense amassment of wealth, is consequently the richest individual of the 20th century. No one can realistically assess how much he is worth in terms of billions of dollars. The Pope has tremendous amounts of money power. As we can see the Wikipedia logo here, there was a question saying, is Roman Catholic Church one of the wealthiest organizations in the world? Given the Church's valuable works of art, land, gold, and funds invested around the world, there's no doubt that it is one of the richest institutions on earth. Its power has grown almost continuously since 313, during the week when Roman Catholicism became the official religion of the Roman Empire. Catholic Church owns tremendous of money, as normal people can't even imagine how much they have. There is a great chance whenever there is an economic chaos, Pope and the Jesuits are the main ones who will solve these problems. And this is how the prophecy will fulfill. We cannot buy or sell as we want. Look at this picture carefully. There is a marionette, as we see them in a puppet show. The people of the world will be controlled like them. Usually, most people protest when someone controls privacy and suppress freedom. However, when there is an unaffordable crisis, individual autonomy is given to some extent, or privacy interference is partially accepted. A similar situation as 9/11 happened. President Bush talked to the whole nation, we need to catch the terrorists. So please help us use your personal information and search and examine your body to catch these terrorists. That's why they take pictures and fingerprints when they go to airport. Before they couldn't do that. If it wasn't for the September 11 attacks, you'd never be able to take pictures and fingerprints when you go into the airport. That's what caused it. We are having a similar experience now. Do you want to buy masks in line normally? We wouldn't. What kind of world is this? But because we are in a crisis, we are gonna wait in the line. I went to pharmacy once, and because my last digit of the birthday was right, there was no mask. If they force me to hold church services at home, would you do it? No. But I'm doing it because of the situation. What would happen if the epidemic and the economic crisis hit at the same time? Let me give you an example. So this situation has been ended, but the economic crisis came back. Another epidemic arrives, then what do? We can't do anything. If two things overlap, you're stuck. We can be restricted from selling. So when the time comes, I can't resist the demands or orders of those who lead politics or economy. You follow them. This is what is predicted. And according to the prophecy, this is the papal authority who will interfere with the world with great power in this situation. Of course, there's a Jesuit standing in the background. I'm going to do one more thing. Limiting the freedom of faith and further persecute. These things can happen anytime. We are actually feeling this little by little. Right now, you're under a few government laws. The government suggests the churches not to hold any gatherings, but if you do so, when you enter the church, you have to measure temperature, use your name, hand sanitize, wear masks, wear a mask when you do the service, and sanitize afterwards, and don't eat together after service. There are 7 things to do. The government is actually interfering in your life. Recently, a church has become a very focused target. The police were watching, and if it gets worse, we can't do whatever we want. The ultimate purpose of Satan's reign, the ultimate pursuit of this secular power is to confront God and to corrupt the church or persecute the saints. And even though they persecute them until the end, they try to kill those who are loyal to God until the end. This is the basic strategy of the division, and it happened in the dark ages of the past, and it'll happen one more time at the end. I read earlier, and he was allowed to give bread to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak, and might cause those who would not worship in the image of the beast to be slain. Because the Bible predicts that this will happen, it can happen. Now, when the Pope's opportunity comes at the end of the day, he will once again persecute the church and the saints, as he did in the past. Let's look at the history as a picture. Good and evil. Inevitably, we are currently in a battlefield between good and evil. No matter how much we deny it and how much we try to avoid it, we are in the battlefield between good and evil. You cannot avoid it. God is leading the good, and the people of Israel were God's chosen people. Jesus came to this earth through the people of Israel. Then came the churches and the saints. Now we can see throughout history the stories that have been persecuted by the world. From Egypt to Rome, the nations of the world persecuted Israel, Jesus Christ, and the saints. They persecuted. Then the Roman Empire and the Roman Church joined forces. The church became corrupted, and the fallen church joined forces with the Roman Empire to persecute the church and the saints again. It's an accurate history. And then the church collapsed. The papal authority, which persecuted God's people, fell in 1798. There's a hiatus. As expected, churches and saints have passed the period of absence without persecution. During this hiatus, the remaining offspring were born, and the Pope regained strength and survived. It's a clear historical reality. During this hiatus, the Pope came back to life. Remnants were born. What does the surviving pope have to do? It is to persecute the remaining places again. And this persecution is possible because this church is bound by political forces when it persecuted God's people. They have to use force. During the dark ages of religion, the Roman Empire and the church joined forces and gained strength. At the end of the day, the church will join hands with the United States and this papacy. And they will persecute the remaining offspring by bringing the whole world together with the power created in this place. That's it. There is a fight between good and evil. God and Satan use forces or people on earth. They do not fight in person, but rather fight between people living on the ground. Satan persecutes churches and saints throughout the world and through the vast churches, right? When the apostolic church persecutes the saints, it works in union with the power of the world, the national power. So in our observation throughout history, the church and the saints are the servants of Satan. However, despite the fact that there is a clear history of science and that this will happen in the future, many Protestant churches have forgotten what the Pope did in the past, and they're united again. Most Protestant churches becoming one with Catholicism. They forgot what they did in the past. The essence does not change. If you take power again, they will force something, and they will force the doctrines, and if they don't listen, they will persecute. The same thing will happen. As you know, in Revelation chapter 13, there are two beasts appearing, and they are already foretold. This complex-looking beast is described in chapter 13 of the book of Revelation, where it comes out from the sea with 10 horns similar to a leopard, blonde hair, and a dragon-like ability. That means papal authority. Daniel chapter 7 shows a small horn with 4 animals combined, followed by 2 horns that look like lambs. It's from the ground. They came up pure like lambs, performed the power of animals that came out first, and made the whole world worship the animal that came out first. This is America. It looks like a lamb. America, it's coming out like this. It was unimaginable in the old days when the power of the United States was found by Puritans after fleeing from the Pope's religious oppression. But the Bible predicts that these two places will become united. This was dramatically combined in 1992. On February 24th, President Reagan and Pope John Paul II secretly met and formed a holy alliance. There's something in the book about this. Divine planet. Divine means sacred and holy. That's what it means. Why is it called holy? It's because the mixed religion is there. That handshake is not a common handshake. Politics and church are shaking each other. Very symbolic. What has been done by doing that? The Communist Party has collapsed. Right after that, the Communist Party collapsed. In fact, the newspaper at the time said that the Pope had changed the history of the Communist Party of the country. This has gone by. Church and politics uniting is a very serious problem. Thomas Jefferson was the 3rd President of the United States, and then one of the authors of the Declaration of Independence. This very good man. He said, "It's the principle of separation between church and state. It is an absolute necessity of a free society. In other words, if the church and the state join forces, freedom will be lost. From the moment the church joins hands with the power of the state, the church goes on a path of depravity and apostasy. A church united with the state borrows state force when it does not comply with the control it requires. Because it's already united and the state gets help from the church, what help do they get? They get help from elections. So when it's over, the state helps the church. A mutual structure is created. When politics and the church unite, the faithful people of God will be the biggest victims. So what happens? What happens? John chapter 16 verse 2, the translation of modern language says, "They will put out of the synagogues. Indeed, the hour is coming when whoever kills you will think he is offering service to God." The church is persecuting the church, and it says it's God's will. That's why we cannot stop them. This is what happens. Finally, in this end of how will Christians' life era manage their finances? We don't have a lot of rich people in our church, so we don't have to worry too much about it. But even the smallest thing, how can we control the finances biblically? In 1 Timothy 6 verse 6 says, "But godliness with contentment is great gain." For those who want to overburden themselves, those who want to accumulate a lot of money because we have nothing in this world, and those who want to accumulate a lot of money falls into trials, snouts, and all kinds of foolish and harmful energy, which makes them fall into infestation and destruction. Money itself is necessary. Money itself can be useful in many places, but loving money is the root of evil. And those who adore it have been seduced and stabbed themselves with a lot of anxiety. Another principle comes from verse 17. "As for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches." If the value drops, it's nothing. He's saying not to put any hope in the wealth that doesn't have any value, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life. This is the fundamental principle of using wealth. In preparation for the end-of-life era, these words are also written in inspirational books. It is recommended during stewardship. In times of distress, houses and land will be no use to the saints because they will have to be chased by angry mobs. And at the time, their wealth would not be available for advancement in the business of conveying modern truth. At the time, it cannot be used because the evangelism is basically over. It cannot be used for missionary work. I saw that it was God's will for the saints to throw away all the cumbersome things before the time of distress comes. Maybe one day, the country will try to manage the personal properties because they need to be controlled. So whatever I have is no use because it's not mine. That's how we enter into the covenantal relationship with God. If they place their property on the altar and pray earnestly to God about what to do, the Lord will teach them how to deal with it. Even if you have property right now, you may not know how to use it. This is how it says. "Those who think of my sacrifice as God's possession with my full devotion and pray to teach me when and where to use God's wealth will be able to use the money efficiently." This happens in the last days. That's what happens at the end. They will be free when bowing, and we who have lowered them heavily will be free from obstacles. Lot's wife is the representative person who died because she was not free from her property. When she saw her property burnt down behind her, she died looking at it. They are the ancestors of our faith in the holy people of old times. It is written that God was not ashamed to be called with God by them. This is because they used it to build his country by placing everything on the altar of God instead of sacrificing to the world of pursuing happiness in worldly plans or ambitions. That's why they were praised for their excellence. They lived only for the glory of God, and they clearly insisted that they were foreigners and travelers on earth and aspired to be better country, a country in heaven. Because they lived like a traveler passing by, they became grandchildren of good faith because they did not cling to the world and went on traveler's path by using all of their positions in God's good business. Management of the faith in the last days. Jesus was the one who gave us an example of the fundamental of our faith in Luke 9:23, and he said to all, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." Take up his cross and follow me. Did Jesus just bear the cross and finished? He died on the cross. The phrase "take up the cross" is not just taking the cross, but be ready to die. Be ready to die. Because I died for you and I have saved you, so you should be prepared to die for me and follow me. Isn't that so? In Romans 8:21, that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption and obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. We cannot just take the glory only. We also have to take the burden. I got the lyrics from the hymn. I gave my life for thee, my precious blood I shed, that thou might ransom me. And raised up from the dead, I gave my life for thee. What hast thou given for me? I gave my life for thee. What hast thou given for me? My Father's house of light, my glory-circled throne, I left for early night, for wanderings sad and alone. I left it all for thee. Hast thou left aught for me? I left it all for thee. Hast thou left aught for me? A Christian actually have nothing to fear. Jesus made it clear. He promised to be with you until the end of the world. When we live faithfully before the Lord, we believe that He will lead us to eternal life and save us. And we'll hope that you will overcome it with faith and win in difficult times.